Anybody home up in here? Hey, bro, where the hell the damn lights in this thing? What's the hell going on in here? Oh, shit. Holy shit. Damn air shot, boy. I knew that boy had some taste. He got some damn air shot. America right there, son. America. Bo, that shit perfect, man. Perfect. Don't touch it. Don't touch it, bro. That's perfect. Look, that's perfect right there. That's perfect. Don't touch it. Leave it alone. Matter of fact, why don't you go ahead and get down so I can drive it, man? I need to drive this thing. All right, hurry up. I gotta go. It's over 30. I gotta go to the house. Give me a holler. Give me a holler, man, when you get this thing ready. I like to drive. Okay, I see you. See you later, cuz. Okay, YouTube, today I'm addressing a problem that a lot of you may have had with Hotchkis rear leaf springs on your car. And I'm specifically talking about their sport leaf springs that lower the car 1 inch. And these are their 160-pound leaf springs, and you can tell because it's only 3 leaves. So if you look, there's 3 leaves. 1, 2, 3. And what happens is, over time, these things start to sag. So instead of having this nice arch that you see here in it, because it's up on the lift and the weight's hanging down, with weight on it, they start to flatten out. Well, as they flatten out, the car starts to drop. This car should have a hell of a, raise in the back, partly because I put these shackles on it. What these shackles do is actually extend where this eyelet of the leaf spring bolts in. So a stock one, the hole's way up here, and so the leaf spring would be here, and basically the body would be lower. By having a longer shackle, it pushes the leaf spring down, which basically pushes the car up. So I actually put these on here. They had longer pieces. I cut them off, painted black so you wouldn't know it. And I put those on in January, and it sat a little higher, and it actually looked really good. It looked normal. It broke the level plane that the car had. But I did it because the car seemed to be sitting kind of low, which I didn't really care for. Just driving it, I probably put 1,000 miles in this car since I did the Hemi swap on it. Just driving at 1,000 miles, these springs have sagged so bad, even with that shackle on it, it was still sitting level. And that's not good, because if I had the stock shackles on it, it would be sitting lower in the back than the front, which is no good. So there really is no way to fix that. I mean, it's just the springs are just too light of a load to handle the weight of the car. Add into that my battery's in the trunk, my subwoofer's in the trunk. It's got dual exhaust now where I had single before. So there's a way to fix that. You can add a leaf to your suspension. This is Super Lift. This is their, I don't think the part number's on here, but basically it's their 2500 kit. So what you get here is, you get an extra leaf spring, 1 for each side. And the way it works is you go in here, you loosen the perch, you drop this down, so you can actually get this away from the rear end. There's a bolt that drops in here, a pin they call it. There's a nut on the bottom. Once this perch is out of the way, you can get to it. You take the nut off, you take the pin out, it releases what's holding these springs together in the middle. Now you'll see there's clamps here that hold the end of the spring together, but you need to make sure it doesn't fly apart and all this. You gotta have safety and everything, and I'll probably put a C-clamp on it just to make sure, because even when you thread it back together, you don't want to put all the stress on the bolt and strip it out. But essentially, I'm gonna add this leaf to the bottom. They give you longer pins or bolts, and this is what they look like. You drop it in from the top, and then you put the nut on it. And then once you do that, tighten everything back up, put your perch and all back on here, which holds the bottom of your shock absorber, tighten everything up, and away you go. And what it does is, instead of a 3-leaf, it becomes a 4-leaf. It gives it more tension here on the bottom, and theoretically, it should raise the car back up. Now, if it raises it up too much, I have the stock shackles I can put back on here, which will tighten this up and actually lower the car back down if it's too high. But I believe as much as the car has dropped, that this should raise the car back up to the height it should be. Now, it will stiffen up the ride height or the ride quality a little bit, Again, these are 160-pound leafs that's in it now. The heavy duty leaf springs, they called them for this car back in the day, were like 170 pound, 175 pound, I believe. And then the light duty stuff was like 130 pound. So this car came with like 130 pound leaf springs on it because it was the 318 model. 6-cylinder 318s, I think all came with like the 130 pound leaf spring. And your 440, your big block cars came with 175 pound. So I've been reading. But anyway, I'm gonna put this leaf on it. Just wanted to share with you, if you've got these springs like I do, you're stuck with them, you can't send them back. You've had them too. I've had these things since December 2020, so I can't send them back. They're on the car. Might as well try to make the best of them. I'm gonna put these leaves in, see if it makes a difference, and hopefully it raises it up enough, because I don't need much. I need like an inch and a half to get the ride height that I want on this car. It rides great, it's starting to lower itself. So it's gonna compromise the shot quality, it's gonna start bottoming out, and if I put anybody in the car, it's gonna really amplify that issue. I want to show you what I'm doing. That's called add a leaf. You'll see the hole in it where the pin drops through. These are 29 inches long, by the way. It's designed to fit within this area where you don't have to remove these existing clamps that's on here. You'll notice they're not bolted on, they're riveted through, so which is nice. I don't have to worry about taking those off, so it will fit inside that parameter. All right, so just for safety, got my pole jack under it. I got the plate off that bolts to the shock. As you can see, this is the pin bolt here. I'll take this off. I can lower this down so I've got room to pull the pin out. Then I'll put the new pin in it, put the bottom leaf on, put the bolt in it, tighten it up, and then reassemble this. Well, that project ended abruptly. So here's the pins they sent with the add-a-leaf. This is the pin out of the Hotchkis. This is a 3/8 pin. This is a 5/16 pin. See the difference? This is designed to fit up in the stock perch. This is too big, won't fit. Also, this drops down through the Hotchkis springs, no problem. It's a tight fit. This won't fit. So, to show you what I'm talking about, this, if we unscrew this here, this is supposed to drop down in here, right? Once it drops down, you put the nut on it, and then it fits up in here like that, and that's what centers it. The problem is, when you take this 3/8 here, it won't fit. You'd have to drill that out. Next, this won't fit down in the hole. It won't fit down in the spring, so I'd have to drill all the way down through here, and I'd have to drill that out to make this pin fit. So I'm not gonna do that. That's not gonna happen. So, I actually got on Summit Racing, and I found replacement pins in a 5/16 that are longer, 3.5 inch long, so I can use those and cut off the excess I don't need. Unfortunately, it's Wednesday night after 6 o'clock, and even next day airing those in, they won't be here till Friday. So the project is down, and I can't continue until I get these stupid pins. So it's unfortunate. It's things you don't know till you get started. But now I'm gonna take a break because clearly nothing else I can do. I got the clamp on here, which just keeps this squeezed together. There's little pieces in here, you'll notice. Those are like the friction pads or whatever you want to call it, insulators. And if they do slide, you can just slide them back in place so your bolt goes through, but it goes through this way, like so. And then you put your nut on the bottom. What I'll do is I'll put this piece on, then put the nut on it, keep it clamped tight so I can tighten it down. You put that on and you'll squeeze it down tight, tighten that up. Then you'll put this up into your shackle, tighten it down. Then once that's tight, you'll reattach it to the rear with the pad, tighten it all back up, and away you go. It's pretty simple. And it'll raise the car back up. If it's too high, I can take these shackles back off and put the stock ones on it, which basically move this hole back up here, which lowers the car down. So it's a little bit of a trial and error to get the height like I want it. but this will definitely help increase the spring rate on the back of the car. As you can see, it's called Add a Leaf, and basically it adds a leaf in here because when I call it a 3 spring design, you'll notice it looks like 4 right here, but in reality, if you look at what goes all the way over, there's really only 3 springs that go the whole length. See there? This one right here, it's a little one, it stops short. It only goes from here to here. So it's almost like the helper spring I'm gonna put on the bottom, but in reality, there's a long one that goes up here, a medium that goes here, and a short one here. Those are the actual ones that do all the work. So anyway, this other one's gonna go pretty much from here to here at the bottom. So stay tuned, I will append to this video once I get the other center pins in and show what that looks like. All right, it is Friday. I just got my bolts in. This is the part number, and this is what they look like. They are 3.5 inch 5/16 bolts, and they go right here in place of this one. I'm just gonna unscrew this one real quick just to give you a demonstration of how it goes in. We'll take these stock ones out, and then dun, 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 look at that. Not only does it fit the way it's supposed to, but well, I'll just use the other one, but look at that, it actually fits up in the hole the way it's supposed to there. So there's no modification to the rear end or the shock perch or the springs required. This is the right diameter that I needed. Now I can proceed on putting everything in here. Once I get everything, the other leaf and tighten up, any extra I don't need, I can cut that off so it just doesn't protrude down any further than it needs to. So success, get the right part, works out beautifully. No need to try to fabricate something when there's a part that exists. You just get that right part, wait a couple of days and figure it out. All right, show you a little in progress here. Put the pin in, get a few threads started, and then start squeezing your clamp down and get a few more threads. And when it gets loose, tighten them down, tighten your clamp a little bit more. And what we're doing here is we're just flattening out the clamp some more. See here, get ourselves some more thread. And we're gonna keep running this down till it's completely flat. And we're gonna tighten this down all the way, but we don't wanna put any extra stress on these threads and strip them out. So we're using the C-clamp to squeeze this down flat, and then we'll tighten this up, and then we'll be good to go. Just wanna show you what it looks like in progress, but definitely do this to keep the stress off your threads so you don't strip them out. All right, the pin is now tight. You see right here in the stack, it's flush. And now just make sure you loosen the top part of your shackle so you can spread these apart a little bit. We're gonna raise this back up into place, and that'll get our leaf spring reconnected to the back of the car. And then we'll start putting the shock mount through here, and we'll get everything where the pin drops into the rear end and tighten it all up. All right, a little more in progress pick. Make sure you have your pull jack to support the weight of the spring as you're putting your shock plate back on. As you can see, my center pin hangs down. I'm not gonna cut it because it actually doesn't hang down any further than the little U-bolt studs hang down. So tighten them all up evenly. You'll notice how they look, about the same threads coming out on both sides. Make sure that's centered, make sure the rear end's dropped in. I actually use my transmission jack on the hogshead, and I could rotate it around and get it where I needed. And then you can pull your shackles left and right, line up your pin, make sure your pin drops in. It won't be completely flat just because of the way the rear end's sitting. So you'll get the pin dropped in, put your U-bolts in and your bottom shock plate. Go ahead and take out the shock, make it easier. Get everything tightened up and torqued. Once it's torqued, put your shock back on. Once your shock's back on, you're ready to go. But you can see, this is how it looks with the helper spring in there. Now most people won't notice it. This side I haven't done yet. So see how that looks, and then roll over here and see how this looks. So just an extra support spring on the bottom. And then from the side, again, doesn't look much different than a stock spring would look, just on the bottom like that. All right, now to finish getting the shock hooked up, and then duplicate this on the opposite side. And then once I'm done with that, we'll get on the ground and check the height. The good thing is with the Hotchkis, these U-bolts are long enough thread to add an extra length. I didn't have to change these. All right, here we go. With the extra extended shackles from my previous combination, now with the helper spring, let's see just how high it may be in the back. You want lift? We got some lift. Look at that. All the lift. Whew. All right, so now I'm gonna need to take and put the stock shackles back on it, because clearly I don't need quite that much gap between the fender wells. So it will settle. To show you how extreme it is, because I had to lift it up, I've got a torsion bar stay up. Now you can kind of take it all in. Yeah, that's pretty high in the back. Pretty high in the back now. Man, looks like we are from 1976 with a set of hijacker air shocks on this thing. Yee-haw. Man, makes you want to go throw some dirt on a dirt road with this thing now, right? Those 15-inch wheels. Heck yeah. Clearly they work. They have more of an arch now like they're supposed to. But I'll go stick the stock shackles back on it, and it'll put this eyelet up here. It'll drop it down. It's gonna be perfecto. Watch and see. All right, take two. The stock shackles are now in place. And here's the old remnants laying right here. That's the old stuff there. So let's see what it looks like this time. Give it the old fist test. All right, definitely came down from before. Before, you could see this much of my fist, and now it's about half of that. So, I'll drive a little bit, let it settle. But, it's a little higher than I want, but ain't much more adjustment I've got now, because there's no adjustment to shackle. They're stock shackles. There's no more adjustment to spring, but I guarantee it's gonna settle some once I drive it. Because again, this is when you first put it down, it's gonna sit high. You drive it, it's gonna work itself in a little bit. So probably put a few hundred miles on it to get the overall height. But I do like it because it's not even anymore or low. I've got a little bit of a break to it. So we'll drive it around, see how it does, and I'll report back. All right, to finish this off, after the test drive, I went from 27 1/4 in the rear to 27 1/8. So it dropped 1/8 of an inch. So we're 27 1/8 in the rear, 24 7/8 in the front. Now, when I started, the rear was actually even with the front. So the rear was right at 24 7/8, call it 24 7/8, 25. It was right pretty much in line with the front. And that was with 2-inch extension shackles on the back. So that shows you how much the Hotchkis had dropped. Now with the stock shackles in the back and with these helper springs, or add a leaf if you want to call it, to the Hotchkis, we went back up. We've actually gained a little over 2 inches, 2 1/8. If you call it 25 is where we started, we're at 2 1/8 inches with the stock shackles. But in reality, we're probably like 4 inches if you were adding the 2-inch shackles and then the 2-inch from the add-a-leaf. So the add-a-leaf gave me a solid 2-inch lift, and then the 2-inch shackles were giving me a 2-inch lift. So you can imagine if I had the 2-inch shackles on those Hotchkis, I would have been sitting about 23 inches in the back. So it would have been just like a damn Carolina squat in the back. So as you can tell, I'd rather have it low in the front, high in the back, than I would high in the front, low in the back. So this is how it sits right now, and that's only going around the block. So I probably didn't put, 10 miles on it just now going around the block, and it settled 1/8 of an inch. So just like before, these Hotchkis springs are gonna continue to settle. I know they are. I'm gonna drive it a few hundred miles, and we'll see how it does. But for now, it's sitting pretty much where I want it. I mean, I'd like it to be within a 1/2 inch to 1 inch or so lower from what it is now. I'd like it to be a solid inch higher in the back than the front. So right now, we're about 2 inches difference. Again, call that 25, call that 27. We're about 2 inches difference here for now. I'd like to be a solid inch to 1.25 inches. So we're real close. So I'm happy with it. For a little over $100 from Summit for the add-a-leaf. I'll put a link in the description. It fixed my Hotchkis problem. Again, the Hotchkis springs are now over $650, and they're going to sag. So do yourself a favor. If you've got a set of Hotchkis and you're aggravated with them, you're not sure what to do, get this add-a-leaf, put it in, just make sure you get the right pins for it. I'll put a link for those in there as well, and you'll be good to go. This is with the stock shackles. This is how it's gonna sit. It's gonna sit roughly 27 inches from the middle of the fender to the ground, probably a little more, like 27 to 8, which is what mine's sitting at, with a 15-inch tire. That's a 235/60/15. So taller tire, bigger tire, it's gonna be a little higher, but just to give you an idea, with kind of a stock size diameter tire, that's where you're gonna be sitting. It actually looks like factory ride height. To be a 1 inch lower and leaf springs what they are, that actually sitting about stock ride height. So I think it looks cool. Hope you enjoy. All right, well, as promised, it's been a few days, maybe a week or so, since I put the helper springs add-a-leaf on the back of the Charger. And as you can see, it's here. Now, while it did settle some to the tune of about 1/4 inch, currently the car is sitting at 27 inches right there, 27 inches ride height in the back. And as you can tell, it's not quite a 3-finger deal, so it's a little high. I'd like it to be a 2-finger deal, not a 3-finger deal. So we're gonna drop it 1 inch in the back. Now, by comparison, in the front, we have 24.5 inches. So by dropping it from 27 to 26, I will have exactly 1.5 inches difference from front to back. Right now, it is a 2.5 difference front to back, so it's a little much in the back. Again, from this angle, you can see it. It's a little much. It did settle 1/4 inch. I knew it would settle some after driving it, but I probably put a little over 120 miles on it, and it didn't settle anymore. It did drop 1/4, but that's not enough. So to remedy that, I had to purchase some 1-inch lowering blocks. So you're probably thinking, damn man, you put add-a-leaf springs on it, now you put lowering blocks on it. But let's just say you had factory ride height springs on your Charger, you wanted to lower it. Well, the best way to do that, right here, this is Speedway. They have this kit, 910-43808. It's a 1-inch lowering block kit, universal kit. Has these 1-inch aluminum blocks and these 10-inch long U-bolts that go over the rear end. Any excess, you can cut them off. Here's the issue though, for you Mopar guys out there, you have a 5/16 centering pin. This is like the stock centering pin size. And you get this different center pin size, well, it's too big. It's not gonna fit. That's the difference. So on the bottom, when you go to put this in, it'll fit because it's bigger. It'll actually fit down over the existing pin that's going through the leaves. That's not the issue. The issue is where it goes into the rear end, which I talked about before when I had to get a new centering pin for putting in the extra leaf. I don't want to have to drill the rear end housing because one day maybe I want to take all this crap off and put something different on it. So because I don't want to have any extra slop in the rear end, I want it to center as tight as possible in there. This has to be milled down. So to do that, you basically put this on here. See if I can get it where you can see it. And what I want to do, I want to mill this aluminum down till it matches the size of this factory center pin size. So I have a lot of material here. I need to mill that down, and then this will fit up into the rear end and center that plate, and then the bottom will just fit down over top of the actual leaf spring. All right, what you wanted to see, here's the finished product. So what we're looking at here is we have 24.5 in the front. And we have right at 26 and a 1/8 in the back. So it sits just perfect now. If you look at the ride height, low in the front, a little higher in the back. It's a tad low in the front. I could probably raise up about 1/4 of an inch there, but it's not bad. It actually handles and drives very well like that. Looks pretty good. And I had to go a long way around to get back to the look that I wanted. But the whole purpose of this exercise was to show you if you have the Hotchkis lower-end springs on your car and they have continued to drop, flatten out, and the car no longer sits kind of level, it's actually lower in the back, you can fix it on the cheap. It rides great, handles good, rides good, no problem. It does have the stock shackles back on the back, and other than that, it does a great job. I'm real happy with it. The only thing I'm not happy with is just the little skinny tires and wheels it has back on it. You know, I can fix that by getting a wider wheel and tire on the back. But for now, this is what came on the car. It's back on it because the wheels I had on it are back on the car. It's supposed to be on the Mach 1. And as you can tell, that's a much beefier tire, 295 compared to the 235 that's now back on this car. So coming soon, probably a wider set of wheels and tires for the back, just so it doesn't look so wimpy on the back of the car. This car can handle a 10-inch wheel and a 295 50/15 tire very well. So that's probably what I'll put on it. We'll see. I don't know. Hard to decide on the type of wheel I want to put on it. But for now, that's how you fix the suspension. Just a quick tip. I also changed the brake lines today from the master cylinder down to the distribution block. The stock ones just didn't look quite right. I think I've got the stock ones in here somewhere. I can show you right here. See how that looks right there? It's almost like a cancer or something growing on the back of the line. So I didn't like the way that looked, because if that has a hole in it, that depressurizes your whole system. So I talked to Cass at Dr. Diff, who specializes in Mopar parts. That's where my front disc brake conversion and the new master came from. And I told him what I needed. He has a chart on his website. You select the options you want and you order the new brake lines. Just the 2 front brake lines that go for the master down to distribution are 45 bucks. So 45 bucks, peace of mind, brand new lines. I put the lines on this morning, bled the brakes with the help of my wife, and took it out for test drive. Stops great. And now it's just a little bit more peace of mind that the car is much safer. Suspension's dialed in, brakes are dialed in. So it's come a long way. Runs really good, stops good, handles good.